Hi, I'm Tom Hendrickson from the DevOps Online Summit, and welcome to our Community Promoter Spotlight. Today we have with us BMK from DevOps New Zealand. BMK, introduce yourself to the people here at the DevOps Online Summit.
Hey, thanks very much, Tom, and hi to all the delegates and my friends and speakers who are sharing their experience. And my name is BMK, and I'm one of the great fan of people who do a lot in the community. Like of course, a fan of Tom, who's running this DevOps Online Summit, and great to be here. And I'm a value stream architect with Bank of New Zealand, so you can see the bank name, and we are a 150 years old bank in New Zealand, and where I work in the technology and operations side, and I have done various roles with the bank, and now I'm a value stream architect. I'm great to be here and sharing some of my thoughts and also promoting the DevOps Online Summit. Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent. So to kind of kick us off, BMK, you're big with the DevOps New Zealand. So tell us about your community that you have with the DevOps New Zealand.
The New Zealand is actually, if you see in the world map, it's a very small, tiny country, right? Like, we have 2 islands, and then, but the great thing is actually, one of the things that I really inspires me about New Zealand is that, like, some of the startups, they are tech startups, some of the big names have come from New Zealand, so which is really good. And I closely follow some of the technology innovations that happens in the space, and then how some of the people, they contribute to the global scale. I was reading a couple of weeks before one of the New Zealand startup was acquired by some US-based company. So it's great to be great to see that though we are small, it's a very vibrant community. And in terms of DevOps, actually where we are, and if you look at the place where I'm from Wellington, and Wellington is mostly where government agencies, and then also the public sector and the banks, some of the big banks, like the 4 big banks, and also the other financial institutions here. And DevOps in New Zealand is actually it started. I mean, I would say that I would give the credit to 2 key people. One is actually John Willis, where back then in 2013, if I remember, or 24, or maybe 2013, yeah, or even earlier, and he held actually the very first DevOps days in Auckland. And he was part of the SJ Technologies at the time, I guess, and his company was based out of in Auckland, and he was here for some time. And then he did the very first actually DevOps days. And the other person that I contribute to this is actually Rob England. Rob England is an ITSM expert, and actually one of the the IT skeptic. He writes a blog post on IT skeptic, and he has spoken in a number of various conferences, and he brings like what the ITIL and ITSM and also the DevOps together, and talks about it actually. So these 2 people have inspired me, when it comes to, in the New Zealand, what we do. And of course, I was part of the DevOps days in 2016. So we came together, a bunch of people, like-minded people, we came together. We started running DevOps days back in 2016, and BNZ was one of the promoter for that. And we gave the venue, and then we hosted the program. So there are a lot of good things happening in the space. There is the strong meetup of about 1,500 people as of today in Wellington itself. And then there is a big meetup group in Auckland where a lot of work happens, like when it comes to infrastructure automation, test automation, and also DevOps and CI/CD pipeline and continuous delivery and agile transformation, digital transformation. So a lot of things happening in the space, and it's a very small, vibrant community, and they're always interested in and connecting and learning from the wider community. And of course, unfortunate thing is that, like New Zealand being small, we don't get to hear from a lot of the speakers, whom we generally get to see in the US conferences. So what we try to do is actually, whenever somebody comes to Australia, we try to lure them and say, hey, could you please extend your trip to New Zealand? Of course, a lot of people, they do that. And in the past, we have done, Sanjeev Sharma was here, who was the author of the DevOps Adoption Playbook. And Jessica DeVita, she was there from Microsoft, and she... we had John Willis visiting a couple of times in the past, in the last 4 or 5 years. And we had Michael Cote from Pivotal. We had, a few folks like, some of the top names, we had, I think the people who are really doing a lot of things in the community, and they were there. And it's an interesting space. This community is really, really interested in in learning a lot from this, and also we are doing a lot. But in terms of our maturity, I think we miss out some of the great things what the other countries they do, like US and Europe and the other thing. But actually, yeah, we are keeping along, and we are doing good.
Yeah. So it all kind of started then from the DevOps days and then the meetup, and that's kind of grown from there. And you've helped be part of that, right? BMK?
Yes, I am part of the DevOps Days New Zealand, and some of the folks from the other like-minded people. We all came together, and we all started this. We are a bunch of 9 or 10 people. We came all together, and we were all trying to find actually how do we do this in New Zealand. So I reached out to the core team. Bridget Cromhart and other people. And at the same time, then I was directed that, hey, already from New Zealand, somebody is talking about it. Do you want to, I will introduce you to that gentleman. And then I was introduced to a gentleman called Ruben. And then Ruben and me, and then Nigel and other people, then we all came together, Adarsh and Yogesh and people like us. We all came together, and then we started running this as a thing. And of course, unfortunately, we couldn't able to do last year due to the pandemic.
Yeah.
And also this year is up in the air. So, but we ran 4 years, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 4 years we ran in a continuous streak of the numbers are actually an evidence for this. Actually, the very first DevOps days back in 2016 was 160 people. Mm-hmm. And then 2017, 240 people. And then in 2018, we had 360. And then in 2019, we had 450 people. So the size of the conference grew. So that's actually an evidence that, and you can see that a lot of people talking about it, a lot of people doing DevOps, a lot of people interested in introducing that in the organization. So yeah, that itself is actually shows the community. And also the other thing that I would like to give a shout out to all the sponsors who have given us the support, the big names from Red Hat and Microsoft, and then HashiCorp, and then GitLabs, and a lot of people have Sonatype, and a lot of people helped us to run this event in the past, and then they're one of the constantly they help us in this space, which is great to have that community support and sponsor support in this.
Yeah, that's an important aspect because, as you know, it's hard to put on an event if you don't have the support of various sponsors and people. And it sounds like too you're trending in the right direction with your attendance was going up, and so that's good.
Yeah, actually, we were. Last year we were thinking probably we'll break that 500 mark, and then we will have big some of the big. We will be able to bring some of the big names from the other places. But we were always interested in of course, New Zealand is a beautiful country. A lot of people when we reach out, they don't say no, but they can't make it only because of their schedules, and because it's all the way in a different time zone and different area, and a lot of travel involved. But yeah, and one day we would like to. Jess Humble was here, and not part of the DevOps days, but he ran courses on continuous delivery back in Auckland. I think it's 2017 or 2018.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. So a lot of other events happens here, which is great, and just makes it a point that whenever he visits to Australia for a conference, then as part of Agile Australia, I guess. And then when he comes over there, then he makes a point that he comes to New Zealand and runs his continuous delivery courses. So I had an opportunity to attend in person, though I know Jess for a while now, but I attended his course, it's a one-day course in continuous delivery, which is great to have those kind of big names and authors and practitioners and thought leaders coming to this small place, and then inspiring us think in a different way and talk about different scale, because as I said, we are a tiny country, but we still do the same kind of a business like what the rest of the other world they do. We have a financial sector, we have a health sector, we have a retail, and we have e-commerce, and we have government agencies, and some of the financial regulations, etc., etc. So we have same kind of thing. We have different kind of regulations, we have different compliances, etc. But mostly we operate in the same way, but on a different scale. Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing too, you work for a bank, so you probably are really familiar with working in a regulated environment, especially in a DevOps world.
That's right. Actually, this is one of the interesting space, because whenever I come to the other conferences like DevOps conferences, or when I speak, the one thing that I always make it a point that I connect with a lot of people who work with the bank or financial institutions, or who are try to find out what they have done, how they have done, and how did they address some of the financial regulatory requirements. When it comes to continuous delivery pipeline, or some of the transformations that they have done, how do they do the auditing and compliance side of it actually. So this is the big thing, right? Because I think I would not, I don't say that this is only for a financial institution. I think security and risk kind of thing is part of every business, right?
Yeah.
And everybody needs to think about it, just not about financial institution, but those kind of regulations. Like, for example, any retailer or e-commerce who's dealing with the card has to deal with the PCI DSS compliance, right? So those kind of things are, some of them are global, and you have to do. But yes, as a bank, we have some extra things to do to meet the local regulatory and also some of the global compliances.
Yeah, that's important. That's important. BMK, you shared a lot with us. Any closing thoughts?
I think the one thing that I've done in the past 6-7 years in this DevOps space is that connecting and learning with people. I think that's what I really admire about this community. And a lot of people, some of the big names, that I really admire them for what they've done in the space. And the good thing about this kind of conferences, and they provide a platform for people, like-minded people, to come together, share their stories, share their experiences, learnings, and also inspire the other people to do something. That's what I've done. Whenever I connect, go to conferences, learn, or whenever I attend, so your conferences, learn and think and try to establish the relationship. And sometimes my relationships turn to be a really good friends over the period of time. And who some of the people are they mentor me, and I help them, and they help me. It's like a mutual two-way. And this is what, Tom, what you're doing in the space is really great. And DevOps Online Summit, I think it's good to have that kind of the diversified thought leaders coming to the space. Not everybody talking only about CI/CD pipeline, but you're also talking about culture aspect of it. You're talking about the other aspect of the side of the DevOps as well, right? So I think, which is actually, in my view, DevOps is not just technology. DevOps is about actually how, as a business, you are, you're ready to respond to any crisis or an opportunity. A good example is what happened in the past year, in the pandemic. If you see the people who had digital footprint, they were able to survive. The people who were able to respond quickly, adapt to this crisis situation, they were able to be successfully do what they have done. And so, the people who couldn't able to change that fast, and they have to take they had a dip in their revenue generation, their shares gone down, etc., etc. But the one thing that I always admire, when New Zealand was locked down during March 25th last year, and we were locked down for 6 to 8 weeks during the last year, the one thing was how quick the New Zealand government was making some of the decisions about the policies and having those financial aid available for the local businesses, and also putting some of those things like contact tracing, some health thing, and putting those kind of things in situation. I was really amazed, and they said when a government can do that fast, that's an agility, right? That is what your agility is all about. And whereas the big enterprises, we struggle with still with procurement, finance, and all this stuff. I think, hey, government could be able to change the policy overnight. So it's you're talking about 5 million people in New Zealand, very small number, but still, I say that the policy decisions are in government, in enterprises, the business case takes 2 to 3 weeks to get approval, or maybe even 2 months. But here, government actually made a policy change overnight, and next day morning, the financial aid was available, and they put a framework, which is great to have. Then I think that's what I see as DevOps. DevOps is having enabling your business to achieve that agility with the help of the technology. And you call with whatever the name you want, like DevOps, you call Agile, you call digital transformation, you call. And I see this actually, if your business is successful and technology is the main driver for it, And I think that's what I attribute as part of the DevOps, and that's my thought. So thank you very much for having me here in this interview, and please, all the delegates and all the speakers, and please come along and listen to some of the great speakers as part of what Tom always brings some of the great minds reaching out. David Furley is talking, I guess.
Yep.
Like the author of the Country's Delivery, and there are a few people who are like practitioners, who have led their transformations, their organizations. They all are here, and it's a great opportunity the one thing that I really like, Tom, the way that you do is it's not like a slide deck presentation. It's like a more of a very interactive question and answer, and asking those people, and really great. And I love this kind of a format. And thank you very much for doing, and wishing all the best for the DevOps Online Summit for this year. And if you have any, great experience and stories to share, and please, always, I'm interested in learning. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, BMK, for coming on. On behalf of BMK, I am Tom Henriksen for the DevOps Online Summit.